hot pepper. Oh, it was way hotter than I thought. Oh, it got me. Hey, I'm James from Smoking That Barbecue, and this is my new grill. Let me tell you about it. The wait is over. Ever since February, when I sold my pizza oven and said I was using the proceeds to get something special, people have been asking, well, what is special? Well, it has finally arrived. The wait is over, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So I am super excited about having a Santa Maria style grill. This is something that I've seen at competitions and pop-up events, a sharp increase in tank offsets along with an integrated Santa Maria style grill. In fact, some of the big three, Millskill, TMG, M&M Barbecue, all of their tank offsets now have a Santa Maria option. And I have a little dream maybe of doing more of these things in the future. But before committing a significant capital outlay for something like an ultimate warrior wagon for a grilling station, maybe a Santa Maria along with a tank offset, I want to make sure I absolutely love it versus forking out the cash for a trailer option and then not using it. And so starting at 1/20th or less the price, these start at about $1,400 US. They're made all in the US. So Chris and Lone Star, if you've ever seen any of their pellet grills, their offsets, and or their Santa Marias in person, like, I cannot convey how well made this is over camera, but I encourage, if you ever have a chance to get your hands on one, you'll understand what I mean as soon as you start comparing some of the tactile differences of what they put together versus other things in the industry. I think they do an amazing job, and I'll get into more why Lone Star down the road. But for today, we've got a couple things to do. So part of this experiment is exploring whether or not Santa Maria in a much larger, more expensive form factor makes sense, as well as I'm going to be using this a lot in the backyard. One of the things that I had a criticism of my wood-fired pizza oven is it just didn't open up enough of a new cooking lane for me between what I have with offsets and what I have with Kamados and other style grills. But seeing how often tank offsets are spec'd with these, my assumption is that it's going to completely stand on its own and have its own swim lane. And I can't wait to find out. So without further ado, our first order of business is actually fire it up, get a bit of a break-in burn, get some seasoning on our grates, and I picked up 2 picanha roasts that we're going to do our first break-in cook. So let's get ready, grab some charcoal, fire it up, and a little bit later on, I'll give you a complete overview of the model that I picked and some of the upgrade decisions that I made and some of the things I picked and didn't pick and why a little bit later on in the video. Let's fire it up. Okay, I split our charcoal now that it's lit into 4 little piles just to even out the heat throughout the grill. Let's drop our grates. Before I get too close to the fire, just give these a shot of Pam. So just like if you were seasoning your cast iron pans at home, the secret there is a thin coat of oil will give us the best polymerization and cure. So I'll just wipe off any of that excess oil. And now we can lower that down closer to our heat source. So now that we got our fire lit and our seasoning on, this is going to be an hour to 2 hours before we're ready to cook. So why don't I answer what I imagine might be one of the most popular questions is, James, I notice you have an Argentinian style grill, but you did not opt for the Argentinian style V-grates, which you see in many Santa Maria pits. So good reason for this. First, it's really an expensive upgrade. But the second reason, if you've ever had the opportunity to take advantage of any true asado style cooking, most of those are on forks or accessories hanging directly over the coals. The whole benefit of an Argentinian style V-grate is that those are channels for the fat and the drippings that is rendering out of whatever it is that we're cooking, that it runs away from the fire, doesn't drop down into the coals and create some flare up. So it's a anti-flare up reduction system, if you will. But again, most of those authentic asado style cooks, you're cooking directly over the flames and you don't have the assistance of V-grates. Plus, I also have plenty of experience doing direct heat cooking, whether it's running my Kamado like a chud box or using the Hunsaker rib hanging kit to hang ribs directly over my Kamado Joe and or the Joe Tisserie. And I happen to love live fire cooking where we get the benefit of fat rendering down into the coal. So maybe I'm just trying to save a buck, but also I absolutely love the results of the live fire cooking. And that's something, should we change our mind in the future, we can always upgrade to a stainless steel steel V-grate accessory once we're fully hooked, but that was one of the selections that I made. Speaking of selections, you can see I did opt for the 20-inch wheel. This just gives us a little bit more leverage than the stock hand crank. Plus, I also opted, as I mentioned, I think as I was firing up, the 3/8 steel upgrades. This is going to give us a very robust firebox protection, help insulate as I am in the northern climates and I want to use my grills year-round. Not only is that insulation going to work better, it'll also give me protection from anything like rust or the elements. It comes, as you saw, with the integrated fire bricks that give us access to our ash collection and drip pan down below. The second thing that I found really attractive about the Lone Star designs is the rotisserie rack is adjustable in terms of being raised and lowered. Some of the models that I was looking at, the rotisserie unit, unlike the grill itself, is baked right into the side rails, and so we have no adjustment in terms of raising and lowering anything large that we might have on there in terms of proximity to our fires. That was something that I was also really excited about. And my third choice, you see here, I went for the side-mounted bracero. So when we're doing some different style cooks, we'll be able to build up our fire, take a shovel, open our access door and rake those coals into the shovel and transfer them directly into our pit. There was an option to go for a center mount bracero, and maybe if I was going for the full-size model and I wasn't concerned about losing any grid space, that might have made sense, but I wanted to have it side mount so I can either have it attached or remove that if I'm not using it and I'm cooking directly inside the cook chamber like we'll be doing today. So now that you're all caught up on some of the thinking in terms of what accessories to pick and not pick, let's go prep our picanha steak, and by the time that they're ready, I'm hoping we're ready to build some wood fire and get cooking on our Santa Maria. Okay, so after an hour, I added a couple logs just to help, again, increase the heat and start to switch away from charcoal for heat as well as flavor to real wood. And I've now just banked that all to one side so that we have a bit of a two-zone cooking area. Let's get our 2-pack of picanha roast out of the package here. So optional, but I like scoring the fat cap. So about every inch or so, going to do a cross-hatch pattern to help our salt, pepper, and garlic get down into our roast. So next, while I've got a clean hand, I want to use my pepper cannon set to about, I think, 27 clicks from the finest setting is what I use for most of my rub recipes. But we just want a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper to go with our smoked sea salt. So this is Malden's smoked sea salt. It's available in most grocery stores. And then I've got some garlic. Costco now carries truff hot sauce in most locations, so I picked up a 2-pack on sale there. But really all I'm after for is the truffle oil in here. It adds great umami flavor. So if you're able to find anything with some truffle oil, a small smear of that is all that we will need. So we've got some fresh cracked black pepper. Set that aside. Get out our truffle oil. It's going to be a little bit of a binder, and again, just adds a bit of depth and umami flavor. So we only need a small amount, because even at Costco prices, it's still very expensive. A dab will do us. Start with our salt. And since we're not doing an overnight dry brine here, we can be fairly liberal. Nearly impossible on a thicker cut like these 2 picanha roasts to over salt something in a short same-day brine, about an hour or so before we hit the grill. Nice intermuscular striations. These 2 roasts, by the way, are also from Costco. Sometimes they're labeled sirloin cap roasts instead of picanha, but that's the same thing if you're having a hard time finding that, or your local butcher doesn't yet know what picanha is. That's an alternative that you can ask for. It's the same roast. Our garlic powder, the pepper we just cracked from our pepper cannon, and presentation side. Just holding them up in a bit of an arch to help open up some of those creases that we just made by running our knife along on a 45-degree angle. Help get a little bit of seasoning down in there. From a workflow perspective, using something like my meter block would be easier as I have 4 probes integrated all into one unit. But I'm going to use the new Gen 2 Meter 2 Plus probes, as these can withstand temperatures. I'll put the exact amount up on screen, but I think it's close to 1,000 degrees. So since we're going to be going back and forth
between some live fire. These have nearly double the temperature rating, so that's why I'm going with the Meter 2 Plus.
Looks good. Let's go get these on.
So I banked all the coals to one side, so let's build a little log cabin here. Lower our grate back, add our 2 picanhas. While our picanha's cooking, let's make up a quick chimichurri. So I've got a head of parsley as well as cilantro. The recipe I post on the website doesn't have the cilantro included, but I like that. The recipe will say about a half cup of fresh parsley. So let's just give a coarse chop to that. Same thing with the optional but recommended cilantro. Add in the cilantro. Recipe says 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. You can use a heaping spoon of the Costco stuff if you want to save some time. About 3/4 of a teaspoon of dried oregano, some olive oil, 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, 1 level teaspoon of coarse salt. It's about a full pinch. And optional but recommended 2 or 3 red Thai chilies. A little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. And mix this together to incorporate. We're about an hour out from our steaks being ready. At this point, this looks a little bit dry and you might be tempted to add some more olive oil. The salt is going to pull a lot of moisture out of the fresh ingredients that we added. So we'll always have the opportunity to add more olive oil a little bit later on. If it looks like we need it, for now, I'm just gonna let this mellow out in the refrigerator. All right, our picanha roasts are ready. Let's start getting a couple slices. Beautiful medium rare all the way through. That looks awesome. Our chimichurri has loosened up exactly where we want it without needing to add any more oil. Looks awesome. Sprinkle some on a few sample pieces.
Cheers. Hot pepper.
You'll leave this in.
Oh, it was way hotter than I thought. Oh, I managed
Can't handle the heat.
to inhale a hot pepper in my nose. Oh, it got me.
It did.
Oh, right in the nose. Let's try take 2. Cheers. If you never cooked with wood fire, the first time you have the opportunity to do it, the flavor difference is apparent. So what's hitting the mouth? After I have recovered from the hot pepper incident of take 1. So first, the textures are immediately clear that we're getting that nice crispy fat cap and immediately melts away. So by flipping it halfway through, letting that render, that is a symphony of flavor. The chimichurri is absolutely on point, minus the pure hot pepper piece is absolutely incredible. And for our wood smoke, it is incredibly mild, yet ever so subtle present in all the best ways. I'm gonna go for another piece without the chimichurri. Mostly so I don't die of the hot pepper, but also to give you a sense of what that's like as well. Nothing beats live fire cooking. I've done steaks over my solo stove to hanging tomahawks and something like my Kamado Joe to a whole bunch of other tools in between. And it's just because that live fire taste is special. I can't wait to explore more of the versatility and capability of something like a Santa Maria style grill. Now I've got one to call my own. Let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me tackle next. I'll get a few more cooks under the belt and start to come up with some ideas of my own, but I always look forward to seeing what's on your mind, and I'll be sure to see you in a future episode with my Lone Star Santa Maria. That's it for today. I'm James from Smoke Dad Barbecue signing off. Remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.